Good evening and welcome to Mountain Bears. I'm Aeson, of course, with tonight is to take you with us, Joe, who you may know by another name, but he's Techie Joe. You know, something about baking something and leaving it in somebody's bed.
Oh my God, yes. If you're from Second Life, I have a slightly different version of my name. Oh, so if you're from Second Life, hi.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi. It's been a week.
Aeson.
I'm always Aeson. You can find me on anything as Aeson.
Yep, pretty much.
Yep. Right. I'm just going to say I hate the news. I hate most of the news right now, so we probably will not be covering a lot of the news because it's trash. I need better reporting.
Well, we are going into a holiday weekend, so without anything major happening to yank people off their vacations, I'm sure it is kind of a phone-it-in news cycle.
It looks to be. So with that, let's jump into doing some remembering. Let's pull our gay history out of the box.
Oh, yeah. So who was Harvey Milk? So every May 22nd, which if you're watching this currently, it is May 24th, so we are a couple of days late. But Harvey Milk, born in 1930 in Woodmere on New York's Long Island on May 22nd, 1930, to William and Minerva Milk. He had a brother, Robert. Both of his parents had served in the Navy. They ran a family store called Milk's Dry Goods and were active in the Jewish community on Long Island. Among other things, they helped found a synagogue. Milk went to college at what is now the State University of New York in Albany, studying math and history, and writing a column for the student newspaper, often dealing with issues of diversity, according to the Harvey Milk Foundation. After he graduated college in 1951, he joined the Navy. He went to officer candidate school, but he left the Navy in 1955 after questions about his sexual orientation began popping up. Milk went on to work as a teacher on Long Island and then became a stock analyst and later a production associate on Broadway. He worked on several high-profile shows, including Hair and Jesus Christ Superstar. Milk began his activist career while protesting the Vietnam War. In the early 1970s, he moved to San Francisco and opened a camera shop on Castro Street. The camera store became a community gathering place, and Milk's political activity increased. After some gay business owners met with hostility from established merchants, he helped found the Castro Village Association and became its president. It was the first predominantly LGBTQ plus business organization in the U.S. In 1977, Milk was elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, making history as the first out gay elected official in California. It was his third race for the board, which is San Francisco's version of a city council. He had made a run for the California State Assembly as well. His election was a significant milestone for the LGBTQ plus movement, symbolizing the community's growing political power and visibility. He also noted what it meant for other marginalized groups. "It's not my victory, it's yours and yours and yours," he said after winning the election. "If a gay man can win, it means there is hope that the system can work for all minorities if we fight. We've given them hope." Milk used his position to champion various progressive causes, including affordable housing, public transportation, and civil rights. He played a crucial role in defeating Proposition 6, aka the Briggs Initiative, a 1978 ballot measure that sought to ban LGBTQ plus people from working in California's public schools. Milk often stressed the importance of being out. We are coming out to fight the lies, the myths, the distortions, he said in one of his speeches. We are coming out to tell the truths about gays, for I am tired of the conspiracy of silence, so I'm going to talk about it, and I want you to talk about it. You must come out. Harvey understood that the single most important political act anyone could take was simply to come out, to reveal their nature to their friends, families, and coworkers. His fellow activist Cleve Jones told NBC News in 2018. Harvey understood that that was important because he understood that hatred of us was grounded in fear, and that that fear would evaporate once people could understand that, in fact, they had gay people in their families and in their congregations and in neighborhoods. So Milk's life was cut short on November 27, 1978, when Dan White, a disgruntled former city supervisor, assassinated him and Mayor George Moscone. White had resigned from the Board of Supervisors but wanted to rejoin it, and he believed Moscone and Milk were blocking him from that. The murder shocked the nation and sparked widespread outrage and activism. Police charged White with 2 counts of murder and illegal firearms possession. Dianne Feinstein, then president of the Board of Supervisors, became acting mayor following the tragedy. The assassination shocked San Francisco and the nation. Stunned friends and colleagues expressed their grief and admiration. President Jimmy Carter acknowledged Milk as a leader of San Francisco's gay community who kept his promise to represent all constituents. So thousands of San Franciscans paid their respects as Milk and Moscone lay in state at City Hall. A massive candlelight march from the Castro district to City Hall honored Milk's legacy, with more than 25,000 people participating. Milk had received numerous death threats due to his activism. He left a recording to be played after his death in which he said, "If a bullet should enter my brain, let that bullet destroy every closet door in the country." White was convicted in 1979 of manslaughter, not murder, and received a sentence of 8 years in prison, which was widely considered too light. Outraged San Francisco residents lashed out in what became known as the White Night Riots in May 1979. White was released from prison in January 1984, having served only a portion of his sentence, and he died by suicide in 1985. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's important that we remember these movements, because these are the movements that started other movements. Like recently we got Berkeley, rental non-discrimination, employment non-discrimination for polycouples. You can trace that all the way back to the activities that Milk was doing. And Milk saved the Castro. Like the big thing was the Castro was dying. Like normal, us gays, we went in, cleaned it up, straightened it up, started businesses, built businesses, fixed it.
Send in the gays. What can we say? I also wonder where Dianne Feinstein would be.
Right.
Would have been. But not for at least the assassination of the mayor. But, like her stepping up in that tragedy.
Right.
I wonder where she would be.
Mm-hmm.
Or would have been. But not.
Well, both her and the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, both of them came out of this time.
Mm-hmm. Like, I wonder if it would have just been like she served her time on the council and
Mm-hmm.
went off to do something else.
Right.
Or if she still would have had the same political career, would she have had the same
I don't feel so. Because I think she's the one quoted about her always having blood on her hands.
Oh. I mean,
Dianne Feinstein.
Because that's a pretty charged situation to jump from a regular council member promoted to mayor in the midst of a national audience tragedy. Like, that's a lot, especially. Yeah. And then there's a riot.
Right.
Like, whew. Like, talk about your trials by fire. That's a hell of a first year.
Right.
I mean, so it does kind of make you wonder, like, for as much of a household name as Dianne Feinstein became, would we have ever known the name?
Right.
She have moved beyond this little, local government run.
Right.
Maybe do a couple of terms and just kind of, okay, I'm going to go back to my life now.
I'm correct. She's one that announced the death of George Milcrone and the supervisor Milk. I mean, and Harvey Weinstein, Harvey Milk, with blood on her sleeves and blood on her hands.
So literally went from the tragedy to the announcement.
Right. And that was common. I mean, because we think about it, and this is, we all see Kennedy, the one right after him, being sworn in, and Jackie standing there holding the Bible for him to be sworn in on. Mm-hmm. She's covered in the president's brains.
I mean, now I don't think you would even get someone that was involved or there for the tragedy for, like, at least until they are emotionally and calm down and have had a chance to clean up.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about, like, the earlier, our past history, to think about having to go from a national tragedy, a massive tragedy, straight in front of God and country, for the next part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a lot.
And that's, I don't know, there's morbidness to that.
There's what now?
Morbidness.
It's in some ways, though, there's a strength of character, because you've got to realize it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to then be put back in the spotlight or be shoved into the spotlight, to have to handle, this is a press conference, this is a announcement of the tragedy, there are cameras on you and spotlights on you, and you are expected to be able to answer questions and hell, form a coherent sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Moments later.
Right.
I don't think we ask that of any candidate today. Right. I don't think any candidate gets any negative flack.
Right.
For being like,
yeah.
No. I also find it interesting, though, that, the fact they would show this, like, take the photo, run it in the paper, do the video, show it on the news. I don't think that would happen today either. I think that would get censored up one side and down the other.
Right.
And I think there's some part of me has a visceral reaction of that's probably a good thing.
Right.
Part of me also says that also removes us from the realities of violence.
Right.
The realities of those tragedies. That literally.
Right.
this is what happens when you do this. It's not a game of Fortnite.
Right.
It's not Call of Duty.
Right.
Like, it doesn't evaporate in 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It stays.
It doesn't evaporate. It doesn't change. It doesn't erase.
Right. And it's not just a, metaphorical cloud of, blood and
Right.
guts. Just appears and disappears. Like,
Right.
this is literally a human being
Right.
splattered in another human being.
Right. And I think that things would be different.
I think it definitely helps people connect with the tragedy more.
Right.
And the fact that like, this is horrendous levels of violence.
Right.
I'm not necessarily saying that's what our nightly news needs per se, but I think there's a common.
Well, it's like everything else in our world now. We've been sterilized, we've been divorced, we've been stripped away from death. We're stripped away from it. And
Some of that's understandable. I'll put it that way. Some of it's understandable. I don't think we're necessarily thinking through the consequences and how to actually engage those.
right.
Like, you clean up the atrocities of war, the atrocities of violence from the news, because it's not it's considered inappropriate to show younger audiences, etc. You lose them. You lose the ability to connect with that.
Right. But looking here at this picture, the reason that Lyndon is placed a little bit in front of her to cover that shoulder and her head is kind of held down is because the other side of her is covered in blood. Insane. All right. More.
And that's the horrible realities of that event.
Right.
Is that the only way to take an appropriate photo
Right.
was to position the subjects in a way that you don't see.
Right.
I mean, it adds new dimension
It does.
to, like, the somberness that's in that photo. That to even think you've got to be standing in this room with her for this moment in that condition.
Right.
Like, how do you even begin?
Well, he was so hot-footed to become president that he could not even wait to be flown back to Washington, D.C. He demanded to be sworn in on Air Force One in Dallas. It's ridiculous. And the gravity of that is insane.
Like, that is a lot to ask of any person connected to that tragedy.
Right.
So it does speak a lot to both his overzealousness, though argumentatively there can be good reason. Like, I've heard the theory spouted before that the longer a country is without a clear leader, the more destabilizing it can be for the country.
Right, but that's why we always have a leader. Like, we do not have a president, we have a vice president that is acting president. Like,
Right.
the United States, even for minor surgeries, the United States is never without a head.
Correct. Like it is, and that is a whole process, and it's why it exists. I just wonder if the reason that Johnson was so adamant to get that done
Mm-hmm.
was, one, because it did immediately connect with the tragedy that had occurred,
Mm-hmm.
and two, didn't, so it didn't distance itself, but two, also that's a very severe act
Mm-hmm.
against a country to assassinate its leader.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
I don't know, because by the time they got a qualified judge to do the swearing in, got back to Air Force One from the hospital, like, there was a lot of work. He could have done touchdown in DC and had the full press there for it.
fair. I don't know. There may have also been a political optics run on that one.
Right. Because he was in the middle of an election.
Yeah, well, and additionally, just the fact
Mm-hmm.
that, if you can get literally that photo,
Mm-hmm.
a nation in mourning is instantly going to transfer to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know that in the midst of her own personal tragedy,
Right.
she can be there for that photo. I think you just, like, the election is kind of
Right.
a bit of theater at that point.
At that point, it was, because I'm sorry, the campaign wasn't that, like, they weren't up against one useful, in my opinion.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
the only way that picture, and strictly speaking from, the optics of politics, the only way that picture would have been better is if a half dead Kennedy himself were holding the Bible.
Right. And that could be debatable.
Argumentative, yeah. Like, no, I get it. I'm just sitting here going, how else,
Yeah.
could you, like, at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
could you have transferred power with any more of a direct connection? And it's like, if half dead Kennedy holds the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
as it occurs, just,
Right.
I mean, from an optic standpoint, and purely what I'm speaking of, that's the only way that photo gets better.
Right.
So,
All right. Well, let's move to some new food news. We've been talking a lot about food. We've been researching a lot about food. So let's bring this into the study.
all right, so we're going to do the study first.
Ooh, yeah.
All right, so ultra processed foods linked to higher cognitive decline and stroke risk. So, yeah, more than 70% of the food supply in the United States consists of ultra processed foods, foods that are industrially made and generally contain high amounts of fat, sugars, and salt. Past studies show that we are eating more ultra processed foods than ever before, with people in the US and the United Kingdom getting more than 50% of their daily energy intake from these types of foods. Recent study linked eating ultra-processed foods to an increased risk for 32 adverse health conditions, including heart disease, mental health issues, type 2 diabetes, respiratory problems, poor sleep, and cancer. Now, a new study published this week from researchers at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston says consuming ultra-processed foods may also increase a person's risk for stroke and cognitive decline. So for this study, researchers recruited more than 30,000 black and white study participants ages 45 or older, to see how eating ultra-processed foods affected their brain health. When thinking about preserving and maintaining brain function throughout our life, it's important to identify factors that we can change, in other words, modifiable risk factors that can alter that risk. W. Taylor Kimberly, MD, PhD, chief of the Division of Neurocritical Care and a neurologist in the Department of Neurology at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, and senior author of this study, told Medical News Today, understanding how ultra-processed foods affect the brain can inform a strategy to then reduce that risk. For an average of 11 years, study participants filled out questionnaires about what they ate and drank. From that information, scientists determined what percentage of their daily diet included ultra-processed foods. At the end of the study, Kimberly and his team found that 768 participants were diagnosed with cognitive impairment. People whose diet included 25.8% of ultra-processed foods developed memory and thinking problems compared to those who ate 24.6% of ultra-processed foods that did not develop cognitive issues. After adjusting for certain factors that could increase dementia risk, such as age and gender, researchers found that a 10% increase in the amount of ultra-processed foods consumed was associated with a 16% heightened risk of developing cognitive impairment. Scientists also reported eating more unprocessed or minimally processed foods was correlated with a 12% lower risk of cognitive issues. We know that there are several independent factors that contribute to memory and thinking problems, especially as we age, Kimberly said. When someone comes to their doctor with these types of symptoms, it's important to figure out which of these are contributing and then to intervene against those factors to the extent possible. The goal of our study was to provide further insight in the role of diet and ultra-processed foods in particular on this broader problem of cognitive decline, he added. Importantly, our finding of the association between ultra-processed foods and brain health also points towards potential ways to protect our brain function. So, looking at stroke risk, researchers found that the diets of the 1,108 study participants who had a stroke by the end of the study consumed 25.4% of ultra-processed foods compared to 25.1% for those who did not have a stroke. After certain adjustments, scientists discovered that eating more ultra-processed foods was tied to an 8% increased risk of stroke. They found that people who did not eat as much ultra-processed foods, instead turning to minimally processed foods, had a 9% lower risk of stroke.
See, that's scary to me.
I mean, I don't think it's all that surprising. It's using the big words to tell us what we've kind of been told for years.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, the definition that they even gave at the beginning of the article was that ultra-processed foods contain high amounts of fat, sugars, and salts.
Mm-hmm.
So fundamentally, it's everything we've been told before, is that eating high amounts of fat, sugar, and salt
Right.
will pretty much cause you to have a stroke.
Right.
I think this adds new dimension to how little of a change one really need make.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, they're talking about percentages of diet.
Yeah.
That are within a couple of percentage points.
Right, but that's the reason why it's scary. It's like, and this has kind of been like our journey along the way, because what they're probably linking to is the gluten that's been put into everything, and the link to cognitive decline after consuming it.
Well, and there's a lot of things going on with her. And I think the fact that we are eating far more processed foods than any previous generation ever.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the industrial age and the age of mass manufacturing. Like it was a nice start to the 1900s,
Right.
To massively, you know, move people away from having to be their own grocery store, so to speak, and
Hmm.
rely on a very minimal amount of dry goods um, to put food on the table.
Hmm.
To this idea that like we buy everything.
Right.
Like if you're hungry, you go through fast food. If you're hungry, you go down the frozen food aisle. If you're hungry, open a can. If you're hungry, open a bag.
Right. But even more so, it's interesting, that not only that, but we're having such problem with it. And the food science behind things is just insane. Like, sorry, I feel like I'm taking college chemistry right now to cook dinner.
To an extent, yes, because we're actually having to look what's in our food. For
Hmm.
one thing,
Hmm.
at least right now for you for gluten. So we're having to look at every package for one thing, and that one thing isn't one thing.
Right.
It's not just wheat, barley, and rye, which would seem easy enough. Don't eat the thing with wheat, barley, or rye.
Right.
Sounds simple. Until you get into the realities of what that means in terms of prepackaged foods
Hmm.
and the number of ways that those words or all the words that fundamentally mean contains gluten.
Right. But
Like,
they're putting it in things that doesn't belong in.
well, but that's the fun of food science.
Exactly. Like, I don't know. Why is there gluten in my toothpaste? Someone please explain this to me. Why is there gluten in my chopped ham and cheese? Not in the sandwich, in the meat.
Yeah, I mean it's finding ways to overcome various issues
Hmm.
um, to one maximize the profitability of making a product.
Right.
And some of those are about, like, for instance, lunch meat. It was one of those things. Once we found it out, it made perfect sense. I've never seen a square pig. So tell me how you get square cuts of ham
Right.
from a roundish animal.
Right.
The way you do that is you take all the meat, you effectively chop it up, and you constitute that together with some binder
Hmm.
and compress it into a shape. Um, at that point, the fact that our ham contains gluten makes perfect sense.
Right. But toothpaste?
I don't know what that one is. I'm wondering if that's just kind of a like cheap, easy, shelf stable, food grade additive
Right.
to probably keep our toothpaste from separating. Because that used to be a problem. Is toothpaste would literally not just that cute little red blue strip or whatever of your toothpaste, but literally your toothpaste in the wrong conditions could separate.
Right. And I think that that's ridiculous at this point. Like, that's when you have to come up with a better way of preserving it.
Oh yeah. Well, but that's what they did with a cheap ingredient.
Yeah.
Little modified food starch,
Right.
and ta-da!
Oh, thank you for mentioning the latest trickster on the street. Watch your yogurts.
Oh yeah, modified food starch.
Yeah.
It
Yogurt.
means it's gluten based.
Yeah.
Or most likely is. I think there's some versions of that are not gluten,
Right. There are
but
some that
most,
aren't. There are some that are.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a fun one that threw him out of a yogurt
Yeah. Cut
violently.
through. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that yogurt didn't go well. Um, and we literally had to search through everything he ate for a 48-hour period.
Right.
trying to figure out, hey, Emily, hey, Brenda.
Yeah.
But we had to search through everything he ate for like a 48-hour period trying to figure out, okay, where's the culprit? There's got to be a culprit.
Right.
Like something has gluten. And we were having this moment, which we often do because we often eat the same things because we eat together a fair bit, of trying to figure out, okay, well, what the hell did we eat? And it seems like every time, and I don't say this in any negative way, I really don't, but it seems like you have the unfortunate luck that every time you have something different,
Mm-hmm.
it hurts you.
Yeah.
And it hurts you bad.
It does. And it's like, okay, we're not doing this. Yeah. Well, every time I try to eat healthy, also, it hurts me.
Mm?
Like, the whole
Like,
point was
going, like, I'm going to eat yogurt. I want a fruit yogurt. Or, a flavored yogurt. This
Mhm.
wasn't fruit. But it was well, we'll name and shame. It was a Boston cream pie Chobani.
Chobani. Yep.
Which
Chobani.
scanned with Fig and said you can have it.
Mm-hmm.
No problems. And we literally didn't even think about it until finally it was like, when did you start feeling sick? And
Right.
you were like, I had the yogurt and I went to bed.
Yeah.
And I woke up sick. Okay, double check the yogurt. I was like, why didn't you finish the yogurt? And he's like, I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, we start reading and comparing the ingredients, and what Fig had did not contain modified food starch.
Right.
So to Fig, it was a totally edible item. We reread the packaging, and the packaging, clear as day, has one extra ingredient.
Mm-hmm. Well, it had like 2 extra ingredients compared to what Fig had, but the culprit made it non-gluten free was the modified food starch.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just one of those moments. So like, we're paying. Actually, it's closer to 15 because we both have it. And we both have to have subscriptions for it. So $15 a month for an app to help with this, and then we're getting thwarted by manufacturers who seemingly randomly change their ingredients.
And don't publish it.
Well, until someone else goes through it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know that we're not moving towards a point in which, and I kind of worry about it. I mean, it's published, it's on the wrapper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they did their technical, requirement, is they have to list the contents of the product.
Mm-hmm.
And they do. And granted, we kind of have to accept the app has a delay because it's not like they get a mass update from the mothership of all food companies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ConAgra does not have this company on speed dial.
Well, they should. They'd sell more food.
You'd hope, right? And just the number of foods, though, like, and that's probably like a totally separate point, but it's part of this, is that this was a perfectly edible, fit your dietary requirements, gluten-free item.
Mm-hmm.
And they added an ingredient. For what purpose, we have no idea. I'm sure it was, so it would transport better, last longer on the shelf, something. Like, they benefited. They added something. It costs them money to do this.
Right.
So there's got to be a benefit. But they added this one ingredient that moves it from this is totally safe for you to eat to hell no, you can't eat that.
Right. Yeah. And now it's like, okay, I'm not trusting any yogurt. I'll make my own.
We're literally at a point we don't trust anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constant trust but verify, where we scan it with the app and get a little excited, and then it's like, no, really read through.
Right.
because we've already been burned a few times. Well, you have a few times from things that you should have been able to eat.
Right. Hot dogs.
Yeah. One, it doesn't seem to be a priority for most companies unless they're trying to cater to a niche, the niche market of people who need gluten-free food,
Right.
to make or keep their foods gluten-free,
Right.
or to even remotely try to claim the label, even if they're not going to get the certification. But just, market that, like, hold to it. This is gluten-free. That's it.
Yeah. Don't change it. Don't go in there and fuck around. You got a good recipe. Leave it alone.
Yeah. Well, it's almost, to me, and I know that's probably asking a lot of a food company, is like if you're going to take a food that is potentially going to be eaten by people who are looking for gluten-free food, even though you don't pay for the certification, you don't pay for, you don't want to bother to be a gluten-free food, at least market that it's no longer gluten-free, like clear as day on the front, not gluten-free.
Right.
3 words on the front of the label, really small print, but right at the front.
Right.
And warn consumers, this product changed.
Right.
Like, we're done with new and improved. Like, those are the most overused words we have ever had in our lifetime. New and improved, new and improved, new and improved. I can't even see that anymore.
Right.
But if you throw it on the front of the label, at least you would have, I don't know, a slightly better chance of a customer noticing, oh shit.
Well, there's a lot of talk right now because this is also like we have to be careful about delis and bakery stuff because people are getting stuff that are supposedly gluten free from a bakery and it's not gluten free.
Yeah.
Like they're paying the extra price for gluten free because yes, there's a cost.
Mm-hmm. There's gluten-free tax.
Yeah.
Like, and it is stiff. It
Yeah.
is a stiff difference in. I mean, again, some foods are just, it's gluten-free. It's not made gluten-free. It is gluten-free. There is no reason for gluten to be in this.
Right.
So, we can go down the fresh veggie aisle all day long. That's great. And great for us. The reality is, though, what we run into is a consequence of how we have shifted in hiring employees
Mm-hmm.
over the last few decades. It's I've heard it referred to as the Lowe's effect. There was a CEO, because Lowe's, you used to be able to go in, know nothing about whatever your problem was. Find someone in that area, tell them what your problem is, and they could walk you through it.
Yeah.
Because Lowe's used to hire retired general contractors. So they hired retired plumbers, they hired retired, lawn service personnel, they hired retired carpenters, cabinet makers. They hired people who were at the point in their career where they're like, I'm not done working.
Mm-hmm. I just can't do this anymore.
I can't do this anymore. I have a lot of skills and knowledge, but the physical side of what I do is going to kill me. So move into your retirement, go work at Lowe's. You can be a subject matter expert. Those are 3 important words: subject matter expert. This is what you call someone who has skills and abilities that can walk you through something, that can hear your complaint or your problem and tell you what it is and how to fix it. Okay, so that's what Lowe's had. They brought in a CEO who went, that's expensive. We can save a lot of money and increase our profits if we fire all those people that we're paying a premium for because they're subject matter experts and replace them with general unskilled labor. Just hire a 14 or an 18-year-old off the street and stick them in plumbing. But so, and this is part of the downfall of Lowe's and why Lowe's sucks. And there's whole articles out there that are kind of fun to read. But we've been doing this, all throughout our entire working. We've been getting rid of people who have skills and experience and just knowledge from working,
right,
and replacing them with people. Frequently replacing them with people. As in, not only are we replacing people with low skill, unskilled labor, we have no expectation they're ever going to learn. We make no effort to invest in their education, and then we are happy to throw them out the door and bring another one in and keep repeating indefinitely.
Right. But what gets me is, okay, you have this niche population that will buy literally in the groceries you produce for no other reason than I can eat it.
Yes.
Like right now, we have more Oreos in this house than we've had in 20 years.
Like, God bless Nabisco. They have recreated their entire product line in gluten-free.
Right.
Like, there are gluten. Like, I think the only one they haven't turned gluten-free yet are the Oreo Thins, and I think it's because no one will buy them because they're like, fuck it, I can eat it. I will eat the whole cookie. Right. Like, I'm just saying, like, but yeah, because regular Oreos, double stuffed Oreos, the golden Oreos, and the mint Oreos. Like, again, it's like they moved their entire Oreo product line and remade it for gluten-free.
Brenda.
Really helpful.
Brenda, how many emails have I sent? You know me better than that. I don't send emails. I pick up the phone.
Like, yeah, no doubt.
Or better yet, I walk up to the manager of the store
and give them help. Oh, Emily, this is like my coworker who is mildly allergic to anything citrus but loves anything lemon flavored. Meanwhile, how much trouble do they have just because citric acid is such a common food preservative? Like, Jesus, I can't even imagine the nightmare they go through. Like, fresh fruit or die. Like, and I don't even mean like fresh cut fruit or die, because a lot of that is coated in basically, orange or lemon juice. It's literally, you have to buy a peach.
Yeah.
You can't, you have to buy an apple. If it's pre-cut, you're screwed. Oh my God. Oh, Brenda tells us the Sour Patch Oreos were surprisingly good. But no, Emily says she's sitting there eating lemon meringue pie with her tongue burning at the birthday luncheon saying, it hurts.
And stop eating it.
Oh, no. It's horrible when your kryptonite is your favorite thing in the world, right?
Well, that's when you, like, grab, I don't know. Like, I have this thing, like, and I've done this when I became diabetic. I went off all sugar. I've not wanted anything that I could not get gluten-free so far. However, I get annoyed when I think I have gluten-free and it's not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we've learned a phrase in the gluten-free community, which is called getting glutened, because it's what it is you think you have something that's gluten-free,
Hmm.
and the way you figure it out is because, oh God, I'm sick. Why?
Right. What did I eat? Where did I eat it? For us, it was like, is there cross contamination? How did I get cross contaminated?
How did we do this? What did we do? Did we? And I mean, it got to a point that before we got to figure out the yogurt was the problem,
Hmm.
like we're starting to blame the mayonnaise and the peanut butter.
Right.
Mayonnaise is a shared item in the house. The peanut butter is not supposed to be a shared item in the house,
Right.
mostly because someone toasts their bread to death and crumbs get into the
Yeah.
peanut butter. You
And
know,
the
they don't
butter.
use that on sandwiches. But no, it's just we were looking at that. Like, did he use the wrong peanut butter? Did Invisible use the wrong peanut butter? And you because that was one of the things you'd had was peanut. You had peanut butter on something, and we're like ready to blame him, not in an angry way per se, but be like, damn it, stop using the wrong peanut butter.
Right. Keep
Like
your
you,
paws off my Jiffy.
yeah, like stay away from our peanut butter. Um, was literally where we were at before we realized it was that. So, like, let's understand what getting glutened is, just for the general
Hmm.
audience here. So not only have you spent money on a product that you shouldn't have, while paying extra for other products that you can have. You turn around, you eat it, you have at least 3 days of, stomach upset,
Hmm.
nausea, inability to eat, tiredness, muscle aches, diarrhea, 3 days of that.
Hmm.
And then you have to figure out the source,
Yeah.
while going through a tree of options.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Like,
It's the worst game of charades I've ever played.
it's not even a game of charades. It's like Clue
That's the game.
with like 400 levels.
Hmm.
I mean, because it's not just the one board of the one house with the small cast of characters and a few weapons. It's you have to back up 48 hours. And so it's potentially, let's see, up to potentially 10 different meals,
Hmm.
plus any snacks, any drinks, anything that you cooked but didn't eat, anything that you used as a component to make something.
Hmm.
So not just like, well, I had a sandwich. Okay, what did you put on the sandwich? So now we have to go through every single component. Like, God forbid it comes from a sandwich. That's an event.
Right.
You have to go through every single item.
And you have to crack all that in your head. And then it's like, okay, what pot did you cook the pasta in? What did you strain the pasta with?
Like, well, and right now we've been running under the assumption that cross contamination is okay.
Right.
Because you don't have celiac.
Right.
That we know of. So we're running under the assumption that cross-contamination is technically okay. And what we mean by that is that, and to be more specific, is that the idea that we use the same pot for the two different pastas, we use the same spoon to stir the pot of the same pasta, that we reuse storage containers across pasta, like you get the theory that we're
Right.
cross. It should be okay,
Right.
and technically, while we are separating the peanut butter,
Right.
because it's going to get the most use, frankly, in this household, um, the mayonnaise doesn't.
Right. But I do want to clarify something. He has his own peanut butter. It isn't like we're keeping him away. He actually has a container twice as big as ours because he eats more.
I'm not kidding when I say a lot of peanut butter in this house. Like no one's being denied peanut butter except for this one jar, this one little jar. Don't touch that one. Go with your economy
Right.
because it's what we buy. Oh yeah. Oh, so Emily says, I've been discovering that large amounts of mustard-based spices and sauces will mess up my lower intestinal tract. This sucks because I love dipping things in honey and mustard. Huh.
Huh.
Mustard-based spices.
How are you with barbecue?
Like, I'm wondering, is it the mustard itself or something common to it? Oh yeah, Brenda, that was our biggest fear in the beginning, was that we were going to have to segregate the kitchen. And it was like, oh, shoot me now, the size of this house trying to run two separate kitchens out.
Hey, I already had it planned out. I already had it figured out.
I know. I'm just saying. It is definitely one of those moments where it's like, really?
All we have to do is get him his own, um,
Hot plate?
nope, dorm refrigerator, dorm microwave, and he's fine.
And turn over the deep freeze for the pizza stash.
Right.
And the pepperoni rolls. And the, oh, what are they?
Pizza
The
pop.
little pizza pockets. Yeah.
Yep.
And hot pockets. And narrow band of food choices. But yeah, we would have to turn over the deep freeze for that to
Right.
go with the warm fridge. So Emily says barbecue doesn't seem to affect me as much. However, I tend to prefer the spicy mustard sauce at the local barbecue place over traditional barbecue sauce. So I wasn't using a large amount of barbecue over the mustard.
Okay.
Yes. Hot pepper mustard, Brenda. Hot pepper mustard.
hmm
May I introduce you to a new little friend? Hot pepper mustard. It's a thing. Like spicy mustard is fun. Hot pepper mustard.
Yes. I need to make some before Pagan Pride.
Oh no, Emily says. But if I get honey mustard sauce wings or standard wings and dip them in honey mustard, I might as well have taken a laxative. Mm.
Mm.
I don't know what that is.
It's an allergy.
I mean, unless it's literally to mustard, and which, welcome to you being in love with your kryptonite.
Right.
Oh, Brenda says hot pepper mustard butter used to make it. Oh, very nice, very nice.
Yeah, it's a documented allergy. It
Oh,
causes emphysema, hives, itchiness, rashes, swelling of the lips, tongue, face. Can go up to literally where she needs an EpiPen.
oh no.
Yeah. So I'd stay
So,
away from that wing place.
well, either that or take your coworker and you just get all the wings you want, and she can have a piece of lemon meringue pie. I'm
Share
sorry.
the EpiPen.
Yeah, pass the EpiPen. That's a sentence where you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, we found that my brain apparently knows things, and it's like, no, we don't use that. No, I don't like that.
Mhm.
One of them being Hellman's. Hellman's is not gluten free. Do not bring it into my house. You will get more than a divorce now.
He is a Duke's mayonnaise boy and always has been.
Yes.
Turns out it's the safest mayonnaise we can use. What I found interesting though is that you hate pizza,
Yeah.
except now that we found gluten-free pizza, you like
We've
pizza
had it. Yes, you've had it
twice,
twice in a week.
twice in a week. Um, Brenda wanders off to search spicy mustard barbecue sauce and thaw out some chicken. Oh, oh, leave us playing in the background. You know, we do
Yes.
like.
Yes.
You can rewatch later, but leave us room.
Right. Though we're getting to your favorite subject, Brenda, you might want to pull your head out of the freezer for this.
Oh, we are, aren't we?
Yes, it's time for Is Joe the Asshole?
Oh, we're skipping.
We always
Oh,
do Are You the Asshole?
no, but we did. We went from ultra processed to Am I the Asshole? We still have a story.
Oh, please do the story.
Okay, so following along to our ultra processed food, Morgan Spurlock, Super Size Me director, dies at 53. A documentary filmmaker who captured his own psychological and physical symptoms from eating McDonald's every day for a month in the Oscar nominated 2004 feature Super Size Me, died Thursday in upstate New York due to complications of cancer. He was 53. Spurlock's family confirmed his death. It was a sad day as we said goodbye to my brother Morgan, says Craig Spurlock, who worked with his brother on several projects. Morgan gave so much through his art, ideas, and generosity. Today, the world has lost a true creative genius and a special man. I am so proud to have worked together with him. Spurlock rose to prominence for Super Size Me, in which he conducted an experiment involving consuming only food from McDonald's for a 30-day stretch. The rules also included the stipulation that Spurlock could not refuse the supersize option if prompted during the transaction. The filmmaker also exercised less to match the average American's physical activity. By the end of the experiment, Spurlock claimed that he gained 25 pounds and suffered from depression and liver dysfunction. Super Size Me captured the zeitgeist when it released in 2004, grossing 22 million at the global box office and sparking a conversation about how the fast food industry encourages poor nutrition among the general public. McDonald's discontinued its supersize option in the time following its release. Though the doc is still utilized as an educational aid in some school health classes, it has also sparked debate over its accuracy in the years since, with some criticisms citing Spurlock refusing to publicly share his diet log from filming. Spurlock later disclosed that he struggled with alcohol abuse, a factor that some consider would have been a likely influence on the doc's conclusions regarding liver dysfunction. So, born November 7th, 1970, in Parkersburg, West Virginia, Spurlock was raised under the Methodist faith, though he identified as agnostic later in life. He graduated with a BFA in film from New York University in 1993. In the 13 years following Super Size Me, Spurlock gained additional success under his production company, Warrior Poets, producing and directing nearly 70 documentary films and television series. Spurlock's wide-ranging works were fueled by addressing controversial and topical subjects. His projects covered issues including the U.S. war in Afghanistan, Where in the World is Osama bin Laden, minimum wage and immigrant labor, 30 Days, consumer susceptibility to marketing, The Greatest Movie Ever Sold, trophy hunting and body modification, Seven Deadly Sins, elder care and gambling, Morgan Spurlock, Inside Man, and corporate pressure on family farms, Super Size Me 2, Holy Chicken. In December 2017, as the Me Too movement continued to gain traction, Spurlock wrote a lengthy social media post saying he was part of the problem. In the post, he admitted to serial infidelities and said he had settled an allegation of sexual harassment from a former assistant. He also said he had been accused of rape in college. The post effectively ended Spurlock's documentary career as Spurlock stepped down from Warrior Poets shortly after. Spurlock is survived by his 2 children, Laken and Callan, mother Phyllis Spurlock, father Ben, Iris, brothers Craig and wife Carolyn, and Barry with wife Buffy, multiple nieces and nephews and former spouses, Alexandra Jameson and Sarah Bernstein. So, yeah.
Yeah. Like, these movies made great movement.
That they did. Super Size Me especially, like that one did a lot for really challenging the whole I'm loving it concept.
Right.
I think it did for a lot of people, show them that as healthy as McDonald's tries to portray itself, it just isn't. And it really started the conversation about health food inside the fast food chain. Really isn't.
Right.
There's no healthy options.
No.
There's healthier options, but most of them incorporate at least some component, or at least the overarching ideas of the chain itself, how that food's prepped.
Right.
It really isn't the healthy choice.
It isn't the healthy choice. And, for disclosure, my recovery meal is McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
It's so not food.
As we say this, ironically, somehow, McDonald's doesn't use wheat in its buns.
No. Or at least not enough wheat to set my stomach off. Where 2 teaspoons of yogurt with modified starch will send me railing for 3 days. Those 3 days, I ate 4 double cheeseburgers and a half a small fry each time. And it's the only food I kept down.
Yeah, it was. It really was. So yeah, I think it was one of his best works. Was Super Size Me. Holy Chicken is not bad.
Right.
It really, again, like most of his work, drew attention to this feel-good labeling that we have of chicken, like organic and free range, and the realities of what that technically means in terms of the minimum requirements to get the designation. And they're ridiculous.
Yes.
Like cage-free, organic, free range, yeah. It's not what you think. Not when it comes from a major company.
Right.
Also, the interlinking of the one company, different brands, and how much of like your like chicken case at your grocer is all one company.
Tyson.
And it all comes from a Tyson farm.
Right.
It's a different name, it's a different company, but it's all the same chicken.
Yep. It all looks the same.
Yeah. There's also, I mean, kind of moving away from Morgan, but in a similar vein, there's a TikToker, and I wish I had his name right now, does something similar with like the aisles of the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
and how much of those products are actually all the same company.
There's one that does it with the food and points out what's in the food. I've been watching him lately a lot too. It's
Yeah, I
interesting.
like. Yeah, this one in particular though I really like because like he sits there and boxes, like takes a photo of the shelf and all the different brands and things
Mm-hmm.
that you have, and then he starts masking over it with "this is all one company," and color codes it.
Right.
Like they're on different spots of the shelf, and these are
Mm-hmm.
all the same product with a different label.
Yeah.
It's all the same ranch dressing.
Right.
You have three, I think it's something like three options of ranch. When you really get down to it, you have three options in ranch dressing. Most of that shelf is all one company, and then there's like two little tiny spots on the shelf
Mm-hmm.
that are not that company.
Right.
And it's like, so what the hell are we doing? It's artificial choice. It's all the same product. We're just paying more for it or less for it.
Right.
Oh yeah, Brenda says free range isn't the cute little chickens roaming the farm like people picture.
Right.
It is not. It is very much not. The barn has an opening in which a chicken could step outside while still being caged in.
Right.
Like fenced in. That's free range.
Right.
They could see daylight.
Right.
Like watch it. It's worth watching. It really is. All of his work is worth watching. But it's one of those things, the ridiculousness of what we allow
Right.
and what we think it means and spend extra money for versus the reality of what they do.
Right.
I mean, I would not suggest planning a chicken dinner after you watch the movie for a while.
Right.
Just saying, like, you also get confronted with the conditions in which we raise our food.
Right.
It'll put you off your chicken.
Well, we've been doing a lot of beef, so.
I know.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
All right.
I wish there was a place you could just buy chicken.
You know? Oh, let's see. Oh, it's like my aunt worked for a shirt factory, same shirt made in mass, tagged with 8 company labels. Huge difference in high and low price, but same shirt by the same workers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're all the same. All right. So off to finding out if Joe's an asshole this week.
Am I the asshole for buying my wife an expensive phone I knew she didn't want? Me, 33 male, and my wife, 33 female, have been together for 15 years, married for 9, and have 2 beautiful daughters. We both come from poor families, so we've always been very responsible with money. We used to live very frugal, which allowed us to buy a home and raise our kids. Now we both have stable jobs and started earning well. My salary got doubled last year, and we literally didn't know how to adapt. I've been trying to persuade her to change our standard of living and spend more on better stuff, but she is reluctant. She constantly worries that it can all disappear, so she tries not to spend too much, and as a result, money just piles up pointlessly. She has a very cheap phone that's driving her crazy how buggy it is, and makes horrible photos. She likes to take photos of our kids for memories. So I bought her a very good and expensive one, even though she was strongly against it when I suggested it. She says it's way above her standard. She doesn't want to look like a shallow person with things she doesn't need, and it is very expensive. It's actually a third of my monthly salary, but in her eyes, it's too much. We got it today, and now she doesn't speak to me. She says I should use it, sell it, or do whatever I want with it, but she won't use it. I know she would like it if it wasn't for the price, because we talked about what she wants in a phone and I've shown it to her before. So the only problem is the price. We have a shared budget. We rarely ever fight, but this time she's very stubborn and ignores me altogether. Am I the asshole? That's a tough one.
Yeah, because we've had this debate.
We have. And that's why I picked this one, because I'm hoping that our experience might be useful for this.
Right.
So here's the thing about frugality. Is when you only look at the price, you don't look at the cost.
Mm-hmm.
So what tends to happen is you have things that are gonna wear out faster,
Mm-hmm.
are not gonna provide you with what you need or want,
All right.
are gonna make you miserable
Mm-hmm.
needlessly, and effectively cost you more over time.
Right.
So sometimes being price conscious is cost foolish.
Right.
And while phones are one of those things that it does seem like we're being endlessly asked to spend another $800, $1,600, $2,400, there does come an argument for, is it worth it?
Right.
I don't think you put a $2,400 phone in the hands of a 5-year-old.
Right.
I think if for a living you dig ditches and build houses, and you probably don't want the $2,400 phone unless you can buy a case that will seriously protect it.
Right.
That there are arguments for even having a second phone, to use in situations where, like, if you work Monday through Friday, in conditions where you're gonna destroy it. You just off the bat, it's gonna get destroyed.
Right.
But I think there's also an argument for buying a better phone, from buying better stuff, as long as you're reasonable about what you're buying and why. If you're just buying the nicest one out there to have the nicest one out there, that's not going to be your best argument.
Well, and this is the argument we got into. This was an argument.
It was an argument.
Because I constantly had to upgrade phones. Every year I needed a new phone.
Every 6 months you needed it.
Right. And it wasn't because of my lack of ability to keep care of it or not carrying a case. I've only destroyed one phone in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes this one that's ridden on the top of a car before, but it was still fine. What would happen was the network was quickly, like, phones were progressing.
Mm-hmm. And
so I would buy the cheapest model to get me through the next 6 months until the next thing came out. Now, granted, I'm sitting right now with the Samsung Note. He finally got it for me.
I did. I forced you into the expensive phone. It was an argument because you were firmly convinced this is not worth it.
Right.
Like, they change stuff every few months. I'll have to get a new phone anyway. It's not gonna, like, you had every excuse in the book, and I kept pointing out, This is your business.
Mm-hmm.
You make every dime you make on this phone.
Right.
You are more and more being required, not given the option, required
Mm-hmm.
to use social media and
Mm-hmm.
use it well in order to make your business work.
Right.
So that involves photos and video editing and being able to post on location and being able to do live videos. You can't get that for a $200 phone.
Right.
It's just not, it was not optional.
Right. You know,
$1,400 phone, however.
honey, $3,600 phone.
I didn't think it was that much. Like, I didn't think it was that much. I thought it was 1,300. We financed it. Yours has been paid off. It was $33 or $36 a month till it paid off.
Right.
Like, it's not been cheap.
Come on, move it, AT&T. Yes, I know I'm pushing you. Get over it.
So Brenda says, tell her it's a present. Emily says, I recently was forced by Mr. Mott to invest in a very nice $800 photo printer for my art business. I've been talking myself out of doing it for 5+ years. I overthink and talk myself out normally. He was like, client finally paid you. Use that money to invest in yourself. You've been talking yourself out of this for 5 years now. Pull the plug.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't let me come back home from Staples unless I had the printer in the back of the van. Congratulations on your awesome, I'm sure awesome printer. And I'm 100% with him. Explaining this, and like it's one of those things is it starts to feel like you're being selfish and you're buying a really expensive thing and you shouldn't do that. And it's like, no, your business is buying the thing.
Right.
Like you're making money, you're gonna make money with it.
Right.
Like now, if you were going out and buying, I don't know, an $800 keychain, that seems problematic.
Right. Now, you're right. I thought it was more than that. No, it was $1,200.
Yep, and that's the Note 20 Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
And you've had it how long now?
Um,
I can tell you, I think it's 2021.
Yep, September 16th, 2021.
Uh-huh. So you've had it almost 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So $1,200 phone,
Mm-hmm.
divide by 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
$400 per year.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to how much were you spending for phones that kept you angry?
No more than like $100 over 6 months.
All right, so yeah, you paid double.
Mm-hmm.
You got one phone for 3 years.
Yeah.
And you are, I believe, just now thinking it might be time to upgrade.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, like he's not even there. He's just like, well, it might be time for the new.
Well, they've not even got one out yet that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am an Android boy. Don't show me an Apple. Not interested. We tried Apple. We were unhappy.
Yeah, you're not an Apple. We got that. But talking about the experience, $1,200 phone, like from the other side of the looking glass, because you were hard set against it. I'm not buying it.
Right.
We're not getting that. I don't want that.
Yes.
Where are you at on the other side?
I'm okay with it because it's lasted, and if it can last a little bit longer until they come out with something better, I'm cool. But we were very picky on buying this phone. I had to have so many this, so much that. I had to be able to do this. I had to be able to do that, and that's why we also done installments. That way, I could look at them and say, "Take it back."
Yes. And you have fully paid it all.
No, we've got
No.
5 more payments.
5 more payments. So, yeah. Yeah, and Brenda says, and how much did you save on frustration and wasted time?
Pretty good bit there.
Yeah. Because there was always the lead in when you were figuring out this ain't going to work for me anymore.
Right.
Then there's the drop everything and go to the phone store.
Mm-hmm.
And sign whatever for whatever. I don't care. It's just got to be better than what I'm holding.
Right.
But not more than $200.
Right.
All new cases, all new
Right.
accessories. Like it became a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's really not that much money if you take care of your stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you have a practical reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't just shaky to justify the purchase, but if you have a legitimate practical reason,
Mm-hmm.
it's worth it.
Right.
Spend a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And plot it.
Yeah.
Sorry, plot it.
Mm-hmm. Like, and I think that was the hardest part in that was that, like, because you had hit the point on your old phone that you were like, take this piece of garbage, take it away from me now.
Right.
And getting you to stop and go, what do we need?
Right.
Like, tell me what we need. Don't keep telling me how much this phone sucks because that doesn't help me.
Right. I think the next thing I want is one that fits into a camera stand better.
Okay.
Which I don't think I've seen. Like the S24 Ultra, it doesn't even really tickle my fancy at this point because it's flat and wide.
Although if you get one of the flip phones, it acts as its own stand.
I don't like it. It will break. It is not my razor. I cannot throw it at somebody. Give them a concussion.
Well, I mean, they are getting better. I like a few years ago when like the Z Flip and all that came out, I was just like, no. This is first gen foldables.
Right.
It's like that ain't an elevator I want in on. That is not a ground floor I want to walk into. Because that's a big change in concept.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of played out that way. They made a solid phone. Let's not trash the phone entirely. They did make a solid phone, especially for a first gen.
Yeah.
But it has been a field plagued with problems to have a foldable phone and specifically a foldable screen.
Right.
There's been issues. Yeah. So Brenda says not a flip phone fan. Hinges break too easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that.
And I figured we would be past this. Quite honestly, what I really want I haven't seen is a watch that I can press 1. Like it pops up, it has the keypad there. I can answer the call, press 1 from my watch.
You can.
If you tell me Apple, I will slap you.
Well, it is technically the Apple Watch with cellular.
Mm-hmm.
It will do everything you need right now. At least in terms of take the call, press 1, throw it to your headset. Like it will do that. Now, and that's the standalone watch. You can leave your phone wherever, go do whatever you want. You now have one line to run your business. It's connected to a wearable.
Right.
It is now the safest device you've ever owned as a purely business phone.
Right.
Like, you could probably keep it forever.
Yeah. Like, I want the Dick Tracy watch or Go-Go Gadget watch. That's what I'm looking for next.
Well, that basically is the Apple Watch. I mean, it doesn't do all the Go-Go Gadget things. Like, it doesn't have. It's not a Swiss Army knife. It doesn't spit out a pair of scissors. I mean, I'm sure someone at Apple is working on a frickin' laser that like cuts shit.
Right. That could be useful.
Exactly. Like, open this package. Like, cut the threads of the Amazon packing tape.
Right.
But don't cut the internal contents.
Right.
Yeah, Brenda's saying my Apple Watch will do that.
I'm wondering if Samsung watches can.
The Gear, yes, they also have cellular built in. And yeah, they do pop up a keypad. Although I will say, mileage may vary a little on that because it's still going to be a very small dial pad.
Right.
But
I just need to get one or pound.
Right. Both companies are, they're like, this is not their first day at the rodeo. Mixing a metaphor there. But it's not their first day at the rodeo. They have not just done this and like, oh, this is first gen technology. No, they're pretty good ways down the road of figuring out what does and does not work in a wearable device display. Especially as a touch screen and expecting a range of humans with varying size fingers to be able to accurately hit the same button.
Right. Like that would, like, if they get the sugar tester, like Samsung gets the sugar tester and has a dialable keypad, I'll drive you to the store.
Now here's the problem with that is you just shot yourself out of that one on the glucose monitoring. There's a problem that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about on the show, and it's pretty simple, is no one wants to go through the headache of getting an FDA approved device, and the FDA dead set on, if you call it a glucose monitor, you will get it approved, or you will not offer. We will make you yank that product if you don't get it approved.
Then the FDA needs to get with those insurance companies and make them approve the wearable sugar machine.
But here's the thing, though. If it gets FDA approval as a medical device, there's a potential your insurance company could end up being required to pay or subsidize you having a medical device, this wearable watch, that does continuous glucose monitoring if you have a qualifying condition. And may even include like the cellular service. Again, it's one of those funky areas where getting the FDA approval lets them offer a device that consumers want, but if they do it, then they now have insurance companies up their ass about the fact that they don't want to subsidize cell phones.
Well, here's the thing.
In effect, what it would be.
Well, here's the thing, though. The Dexicon G7 system is not on insurance. I've checked. I would gladly take the Dexicon 7s. They're a pain in the ass to get.
And for a lot of insurance, and I think they're being very resistive of new technology options
Mm-hmm.
because they feel like they're being led down the path.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna end up paying for cell phones.
Well, see, here's the thing with that, and this is the thing that gets me, is that's like saying that they have to pay for my refrigerator.
How do you qualify a refrigerator as a medical device?
Well, refrigerator is required for insulin.
It
It's
may be,
giving the same object, the same thing.
well, refrigeration is required for insulin. Um, doesn't mean they have to cover it as a medical device because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a medical storage device,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not the actual device itself. It does not contribute towards monitoring the condition. So that's how they get away with they don't have to pay for your refrigerator. They don't have to pay for your electricity to run your refrigerator, to store your insulin. They can
Right.
make that it like fundamentally it's so far tangential to
Right.
if you're on insulin, you have to have electricity in a refrigerator.
Right.
Like otherwise your insulin's not going to last very long. I hope your pharmacist can dole it out as you need it.
Right.
Versus once you label something a medical device,
Mm-hmm.
there can be a case made that you are a qualifying patient who needs this device, and then in order to have that device, it has to have cellular service.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, you have to pay for that. Otherwise, the device doesn't work, in which case you can't use it.
Right.
Like I think that's why they're resisting so much of the integrated technology
Mm-hmm.
that has connectivity. And
Right.
I think that's becoming the key phrase and problem is connectivity.
Right.
But getting back to am I the asshole? Um, what do y'all think? For me, I'm gonna go with. Actually, I think I'm gonna go with you're the asshole for the way that you've done this. You've actually made your wife more entrenched. If I can get the word out, more entrenched in the idea that she needs to watch how you're spending money
Right.
instead of bringing her along and getting her investment and her buy-in. You
Mm-hmm.
force this on her. I
Mm-hmm.
think you've made this problem worse instead of better.
Right.
Like you've traumatized your wife. You haven't given her a gift.
Well, and my view of it is she needed to be sold.
Yeah.
Like you had to sell me.
Oh yeah. It's work. I could have just as easily gone and bought you the phone, and we had a big argument when I got home.
Mm-hmm. Which is what he went in and done. So I'm going with you're a dill pickle.
Fair enough. All right. So moving on to polyfamilies. Poly, help. Just looking for some advice. I'll keep the backstory as brief as possible. Here's the situation from my position. I've been with my partner for 11 years. We have 3 children, a fourth on the way. 2 years ago, he fell in love with another woman. Long story short, we all agreed to try to make things work between the 3 of us. My partner has stressed to both myself and the other partner that he will never leave me. However, actions speak louder than words. After being away for some time, he made promises to me that still have gone unfulfilled. He is in denial about the equality of each relationship, and she backs it up and is honestly just reinforcing his denial. Quite frankly, I believe it to be borderline gaslighting. Anyways, after being gone, he was supposed to move back in with me and our children. He did. He chose to live with her instead, giving me rationalizations that are actually logical, so there's no point in attempting to debate them anymore. However, I am smart enough to see these reasons, as logical as they may seem, for what they are. So I went from being part of the primary relationship to secondary, and without there being any consent to such acknowledgement on his or her side of this, I have been around for 11 years, earned my place, again, without there being so much as acknowledgement or an honest discussion about the reality of the relationships, have unwillingly become the secondary. Despite our history, the love and memory shared, the fact we had built a life together and have a family, and are expecting another child, I, for some unknown reason, have been forced to take the back seat. Due to the way things have gone the last couple of years and the fact that he only waters the grass where his other partner is, I feel like the love is pretty much dead. I absolutely feel friend-zoned. I barely get any time with my partner, and if I do, it is very minimal. I'm lucky if I get to have sex once every 2 weeks, and it feels like he does it out of a sense of obligation or guilt and doesn't even enjoy it. Whenever he does make time to hang out, he always has his other partner with him, and here's another big problem I have. If we are all supposed to be equal, why in the world does she make guard, like constantly? I have brought this to my partner's attention multiple times just for him to place blame on me. For example, I choose to sit far away, or him straight up denying it, or saying he asked me to come close and I don't, etc. The entire dynamic is already completely unfair and unequal to me to begin with, so the fact he hasn't made it a point to discuss her mate guarding behavior makes me feel unheard and like my needs and feelings are not important. I already feel irrelevant and as though he couldn't give two shits whether I left him or not. He leaves no room for one-on-one time, closeness, intimacy, any level of interaction that will lead to a sustaining connection. And quite frankly, I believe things are coming to an end. I mean, honestly, I have tried my best to just to not be given the same effort from either of them. And it hasn't been fair to me at all, especially considering I am the only one that has truly tried to give up more of my time, my wants and needs, in order for them to have time together or work on things. If they ever had true intentions of making things equal, then why have my sacrifices and efforts not been reciprocated? I feel very taken advantage of, as I have sacrificed so much to try to make things work for each of them. I agreed to try this with the expectation that I would receive the same amount of effort and be given the same level of care and time, but that's not how things turned out, and there is no balance. Should I cut my losses, or is it worth bringing to their attention? I feel like each time I've tried to bring up an issue to be discussed, it has been dismissed or put aside because someone else has a bigger issue to handle, etc. Any advice at all, or any sharing of similar experiences would be great.
See, there's so much left out of this.
Okay.
Why is one he living with her? What was the logical reason there? Is it closer to work? Is it they will have two cars and he can use her car? Like, where's the midline here?
Or what is the logical reason? And
Mm-hmm.
if it really, I mean, because you have two kids
Mm-hmm.
that are also growing up without a second parent in the home,
Mm-hmm.
that they could otherwise have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, logical reasons are great for things, but sometimes there's also the that's cool and logical and everything, but that's not actually useful.
Right.
Oh, Emily's got to head off and get the monkey to bed. It was his last day of school, so we let him stay up late to celebrate. Now he's ready to crash. See y'all later. All right. Good night, Minnie Mott.
Good night, Minnie Mott.
And Brenda, not talking to Emily, says, leave. You're not happy.
Yeah. This is not an equitable debate. This is gone from equitable.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those moments. One, I think she's or OP, she or they or he, whatever they may be. You're using the words correctly to describe the situation you're in, which is hierarchical polyamory, and you're not first.
No.
I had a little problem in the beginning when I was seeing that because I was like, ooh, hierarchical. And it's like, that's what y'all started with. And it's, I think, more so this is what it describes it as.
See, and I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound bad. I really feel like that this is a more than one situation. What I mean by that is they're going by more than one.
More than two?
Yeah, more than two.
Yeah. It's possible they're doing that, or that's just possible how it's working.
Right. What I mean by that is the language that they're posting, the words that they're using first and second, and I don't get equal this or equal that.
Yeah.
They're trying to run parallel more than two, and it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work. That's the problem.
Well, more than two is a general philosophy, and in general, pretty much across the board, doesn't work. Right. It requires some very special things to line up for it to work, and even that, it's kind of got its problems.
Yeah, and this in other terms that tell me this is spouse guard.
Yeah.
Isn't that a nice way of saying cock blocking?
Yeah. So it is possible they started with more than two, and that's where they ended.
Yeah.
And this is why.
Yeah.
I think there's a possibility that in writing it out, it inadvertently became more than two.
Yeah.
In terms of how to describe this thing, I feel like I'm secondary and his other partner's primary. I feel like I should be primary, like our roles are reversed. Right. I feel like she's spouse guarding,
right.
Creating distance, and always trying to make sure she's involved, and we never get time alone and close. I could equally see if that's just the situation.
Right.
Well, what else do you call it?
Right, because this is the way I could see the situation being. He has to work in a city away, so he lives with his other partner 5 days a week, and he's home on weekends. And because they live in the country, sometimes the other partner comes along. There's also been some time alone because we now have a bun in the oven about 6 to 7 months out.
Right. But again, she stipulated to that like they're having sex every couple of weeks.
Right.
But that's about all she's getting.
Right. But again, looking at it, it's like I need more detail here. What are these logical decisions?
Yeah, the logical decisions have issues.
Right.
I mean, they would have to be some pretty big ones. I mean, if you're just going to tell me you're a little closer to work and she has a garage for your really nice car.
Right.
Like, dude, go home, take care of your kids. Give this woman a fucking break.
Exactly.
Like, love of God.
Yeah. Stop acting like Cody.
Do what now?
Stop acting like Cody.
Yeah. Well, and that may be part of this too.
Mm-hmm.
Is some of this, and even if it's not, well, there's a question: how much of Sister Wives is basically more than two, whether intentionally or not?
The season 1 Sister Wives, none. Season 18 Sister Wives, all of it.
Okay. Well, because here's the thing: is I'm wondering if through the show, the OP may have never read more than two, may not have picked up the language there,
Right.
but gotten it
Right.
from one of the few sources of quote unquote
Right.
poly representation in media
Right.
that is out there.
Right.
Which, I mean, wow, help you. If you're basing, like, if you started this and have based
Right.
it all on and have run it with Cody as your Lord and Savior
Right.
of what poly means.
Right.
Like, I got 99 problems, but that ain't one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's additionally a way that, like, the language I think gets there.
Right.
And would influence this whole, because there's a lot of Cody narcissism.
Right.
And like,
Oh,
yeah,
there's
it's
a
not
lot of Cody bullshit in the poly world.
right.
Sorry.
Well, and sometimes a lot of it, like, for all of the things that you can trash talk him for,
Right.
he's not illogical.
No.
But I mean, there's logic behind the shit he does.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah, it's logical, but
you
like,
fucked up, dude.
yeah, like, as in, like, well, that makes a lot of sense, but
Mm-hmm.
you have children with this woman. They need a parent involved in
Right.
their life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're 5 minutes closer to work and, you know, she has a garage.
Right.
Like, that doesn't justify to me.
Right.
Why
That doesn't justify to me. Also, what doesn't justify to me is even if it's like you are, I don't know. Well, the situation with your dad having, the company just got him a damn apartment. And he came home, what, every 2 weeks?
Depending on the job site.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is how far away was it, and was it even worth the trip?
Right.
Because fundamentally, Dad worked 4 10s, so Monday through Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically, he can leave on a Thursday after work or first thing Friday morning, and come home for the weekend, and then either leave out really early Monday morning or sometime on Sunday.
Right.
The reality of that was, if we were talking about, the job site's a couple hours away,
Right.
okay, cool. That's not a big deal. Once a week, couple hour drive,
Right.
fine. After working and being tired and all the things, because
Right.
regardless of what you do in construction, even if, like my father, you're a site superintendent and you mostly sit in a trailer, it's still exhausting and hot and near unbearable.
Right.
So you do get exhausted. You're in and out of that trailer. Heat stroke's always a risk.
Right.
So understandably, a couple hour drive, not that bad. 3 hour drive, maybe every 2 weeks.
Right.
4 or 5 hour drive, once a month.
Right.
But there was still also, like, the summer expectation, which was, and again, depending upon the accommodations that got him.
Right.
Because again, each company handles it differently, but the one he worked for kind of had a similar, like, distance logic.
Right.
Like, okay, you're like an hour or two away from home. We're putting you up in a hotel room.
Right.
Oh, you're 3 to 4 hours away from home. We're gonna actually get you a furnished apartment.
Right.
all the way up to you're 5 or 6 hours from home, we'll actually rent you a freestanding dwelling.
Right.
Both of those were trailers, actually. Tryon, North Carolina, and
Mhm.
damn, I can't remember the other one.
Right.
But yeah, Tryon's fun. They have a giant hobby horse. It's cool as hell.
Right.
Fun things. It's the only claim to fame Tryon, North Carolina has. I've got to put it out there. Poor little Tryon. It's tiny, tiny town.
Right.
But anyway, they rented him like a double wide, really nice double wides. Like these weren't like crappy double wides. Really nice, fully furnished, double wide with like the one in Tryon had a wraparound deck and like it was really nice.
Right.
And that was kind of the logic is how far are you from home?
Right.
And then according to that, we'll rent you like better or worse accommodations. Not
Right.
like they were trying for bad accommodation, but like how much are
How much are you sacrificing to do this job?
right.
But what I'm saying is like, if it's that type of a situation, I could see, him not coming home 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week.
Fair. Spend the weekend, spend a few days.
Right.
But this sounds like he moved in with his girlfriend.
Right.
And left his wife with the kids and occasionally visits.
Right. And if that's the case, then there needs to be some conversation about what occasionally visit looks like and what the aim here is, not only for your relationship, but his other relationship and the joint relationship.
Well, and I think more to the point is how much different is this than divorce at this point?
It could be a Catholic divorce.
I mean, or a bed and breakfast one.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, if you're like taking it just from the child perspective, and I know I seem obsessed with that because I think that's what bugs me the most.
Right.
And I think that's a large part maybe why OP hasn't like left him already.
Right.
Is that they have kids, which is reasonable and understandable. But like you have kids, you are potentially only seeing for like every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming probably on a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And a fair bit of that's also going to include your girlfriend.
Right.
I mean, how much different would divorce be?
Right.
What do? Show up and write your wife a check?
Right. Or, check the bank account, pick up your dirty laundry, we'll swap out your clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, but, this is where communication comes important. This is where state of the unions come important. And as I said, unions. And you don't have to debate. Everything doesn't have to be logical choices. It does have to, however, be a comfortable choice.
Yeah. Also, I'm struggling with this being poly because it doesn't sound like she's dating.
Yeah, that's the other problem, and that's why Sister Wives popped up here.
Yeah.
And hopefully he's not watching Seeking Sister Wives, which I'm sorry is the most messed up show yet.
Oh God.
Aeson review off the chart.
Oh gosh. So pending that review though. No, I think there's a lot of problems here. I'm not saying you have to divorce him, but I think you definitely need to make demands.
Right.
Like I'm kind of at a like this is ultimatum time.
Yeah.
Like the following things will change.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're not in a relationship. This isn't a relationship. This is not a valid relationship.
Right.
Like I'm not gonna live like this. And nor did you have to.
Right. And divorce may be an option. But the biggest point is if you are not happy, Get the F out today. And get the child support. Put him on paper. I don't care if he's writing you a $2,000 check. Great, put it on paper.
Well, here's the interesting thing, though. I ran across this in the news the other day, and I just want to touch on it briefly. I'll try to go back and find the article, and we'll talk about it more. But did you know a lot of couples now are not actually getting divorced until one or both wants to remarry?
Yeah.
Like they're telling their friends and families they're divorced.
Mm-hmm.
They're even telling their kids they're divorced, but on paper, they're still legally married because it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we can talk about that in another show.
Yes, I think we should. All right, so to the poll end, it is a 50-50 shot.
Oh, what's our...
No, you're not the dill pickle. No, you're not the asshole, but you are a dill pickle.
Okay. Fun.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. All right, guys. It's been a really good show. It's been a long shot.
But been long.
Yeah. Yeah, I do want to remind everyone, it is Psychic Saturday tomorrow. Let me check something, though, before I get too in detail in that.
Yeah, I think they've run out of time to book for tomorrow.
Well, I'm checking, however, to see something else.
Oh. Well, regardless of what he finds, I know we'll be back tomorrow night for Energy Overview at 8 p.m.
We will be back tomorrow for Energy Overview at 8 p.m. What I was getting ready to check, however, is I'm sorry, guys, Psychic Saturday is sold out.
Nice. No appointment bookings left on a Psychic Saturday.
Nope.
Wow. Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah. That's wild. Very wild.
But it does serve as a wonderful incentive for next Psychic Saturday for you guys to be on the lookout and watch for that messaging, so you too can book your appointment with Aeson before appointment spots run out.
Yes. And we will be back here tomorrow, 8 p.m., for the Energy Overview of June. Don't miss out on that. Do what?
I said, don't miss the June.
No.
Be here for the June.
Yep. And then on Sunday, we will be back for Psychic Plans for the last week of May, first day of June. We're still in the big. We're still working out the kinks with the Psychic Planner. We're going to change the format a little bit, see how that works a little bit better. We're still fine-tuning it for me and anyone in the industry. But, you know, that is all running up. And then we'll be getting up the new shows.
Yes.
Yes. So with that, guys, we'll let Joe take it away.
Yes, of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda, Joan Owen, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Tracy Van, Caitlin Bell, and Devin. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Yes, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Bye.